Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. We're going to do a bit of coverage today of the testimony that's going on in the Jennifer Farber Dulos case. That's a picture of Jennifer on the screen. Today, testifying for the going on the fourth day, is the nanny for the Dulos family that was working with the family during the time of this incident. And that is Lauren Almeida. So she took the stand on Tuesday in Stanford, and she had a long day of testimony. It's the same nanny that called the police on the night of Jennifer's disappearance in May of 2019 and gave a lengthy interview with investigators, some of which was used in writing up arrest warrants for Michelle Trones and Fotis Dulos. The biggest change was in March of 2017 when Jennifer found out about her affair. Jennifer Dulos' family nanny, Lauren Almeida, said, "State prosecutors established Almeida's relationship with the Dulos family. She testified to her time with the family before Jennifer and Fotis divorced, her time working for Fotis' company for Group and taking care of the family's 5 children. Before the end of the day, prosecutors began digging into her understanding of the dynamic between Fotis and Jennifer Dulos before Jennifer found out about an affair that he was having. She just felt like arguing with Fotis like he was harsh and she didn't like conflict. So she could never really express how she really felt because it kind of got looked over, according to the nanny, Lauren Almeida. Just before the end of the testimony for the day, Almeida identified Michelle Trones in the courtroom, saying she met her on a trip with Fotis and the kids. But Almeida's testimony was contested by Michelle Trones' attorney, Joe Schoenhorn. He argued that there was no value in her testimony regarding the relationship and divorce of Jennifer and Fotis Dulos, and it would be nothing but hearsay, and it shouldn't be allowed. You try and drag my client into this, you've now gone so far off the playing field. We're out of the stadium. We're not even in the parking lot or down the street by the highway exit, Schoenhorn said in an argument for the irrelevance of Almeida's testimony. That testimony is expected to take center stage in court on Wednesday. State prosecutors plan to illustrate in the testimony Fotis Dulos' motive for the presumed murder of Jennifer Dulos. Interesting case. And you're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone, real crime from a police perspective. So hang on to your seats, hang on to your popcorn, and get ready to enter the police off-the-cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch, Michael Byler.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger. With the testimony today, we're going to take a little bit of look at some video here where the trial is going at this point.
Michelle, obviously, you know what this stuff was all about, right? It's not a surprise that we showed up tonight.
Almost overnight, she went from a possible witness to a person of interest in the case of a missing mom of 5 from New Canaan.
We see state police, New Canaan police, searching downtown Hartford.
So what's that about? Why is the scene moved to Hartford?
You need to tell us what you know about Jennifer's murder and Fotis Dulos.
The girlfriend in the middle of a bitter and brutal divorce battle.
The stuff you were throwing out, we have. And it's all Jennifer. It belongs to Jennifer. Do you understand?
turned high profile murder investigation.
Guys, what happened to Jennifer, Michelle? You're going to do the right thing, Michelle?
We're taking you inside the trial of Michelle Trones.
And thanks for joining us once again for Inside the Trial of Michelle Trones. I'm Shannon Miller. We are about an hour away from day 4 of the trial. Here's a live look now at Stamford Superior Court as we wait for Michelle Trones to make her way in once again. We're expecting to hear more bombshell testimony today from the nanny for the Dulos children. She first took the stand for about a half hour at the end of the day on Tuesday, and it was the first time we have seen or heard from her. Lauren Almeida testified about the early days of her time with the family, what Jennifer was like and what Fotis was like, and when she started to see signs that the marriage was breaking down.
The big dynamic change was in March of 2017, which is when Jennifer found out about his affair. And a few months after that, it totally changed.
More of her testimony in just a moment. On Tuesday, we also saw some dramatic new images of the evidence found inside Jennifer's home. That includes new paper towel evidence. We told you about the roll found in the kitchen with a blood-like stain on it. New on Tuesday, state police showed photos of paper towel fragments in the garage. They say it's evidence of a cleanup effort. And there was extensive testimony on all of the blood-like stains and apparent spatter patterns in the garage and on Jennifer's vehicles, as well as fingerprint collection, testing methods, and more. We'll take you through all of that in just a moment. Trones faces several charges, including conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with evidence, and hindering prosecution. She has pleaded not guilty and maintains her innocence. NBC Connecticut's Kevin Geis has been in court for all of those proceedings and joins us now once again from Stamford Superior Court. Kevin, we're expecting to hear more from the Dulos nanny today, right?
Absolutely, Shannon. She's expected to be back on the stand today, giving more background on Jennifer and Fotis Dulos' contentious divorce.
You know, when they talk about a contentious divorce,
As well as what happened from her perspective the day that Jennifer disappeared. Lauren Almeida first started working for Fotis and Jennifer Dulos in 2012. She still lives with the Dulos children to this day, working as their nanny. She testified about those early days working for the family and how she noticed Fotis was away a lot. He said it was for work. She thought it was odd how often he was gone. Almeida also testified about a time Jennifer confided in her about her relationship with Fotis years before Jennifer learned of his affair, and she began pursuing a divorce.
She just felt like arguing with Fotis, like he was harsh and she didn't like conflict. So she could never really like express how she really felt because it kind of got looked over.
Almeida also went on vacations with the family. She testified it was on one of those vacations where she first met Michelle Trones. The nanny pointed out the defendant in the courtroom before court was adjourned for the day. That was the first time Michelle Trones was directly referenced in testimony. Now, Almeida is the same nanny that phoned police the night Jennifer disappeared, and she also gave lengthy interviews with investigators about their relationship and what she saw the days leading up to Jennifer's disappearance that was used in both Michelle Trones' and Fotis Dulos' arrest warrant. So we're expecting to hear more from her regarding their relationship today.
How better of a witness could there be than the family's nanny? And you see on the screen, Michelle Trones' nanny Lauren Almeida discusses contentious relationship between Jennifer Farber Dulos and Fotis Dulos. Now, a nanny has a front row seat to the life of this couple. And when she mentions a contentious divorce, who, again, would have a better view of that than the nanny who is taking care of the kids and is actually living with the family? I think it's a tremendous, she's a tremendous witness. And if the attorneys for Michelle Trones beat her up too badly, I think the jury, and I mean by beating her up, I mean that in cross-examination, if they go after her too much, the jury may not like that. And that may go hard on the defense attorneys as to the questions they're asking and as to what she knows and what she's testifying to.
Kevin, one of the things I thought was so interesting was the way she described her relationship with both Fotis and Jennifer, and then the relationship the Dulos children had with their parents. Let's start with the kids. Here's how she testified about Fotis and the children.
Can you describe the dynamic between Mr. Dulos and his children?
Yeah, I mean, when they were younger, they kind of just, they listened to whatever their dad said. They didn't get a lot of time with their dad, so their time was mostly on the weekend. And I was with them most of the time on the weekend. So they did whatever Fotis asked them to do. But yeah, that was like the main time that he spent with the kids.
Okay, so that's how Lauren Almeida described the way the Dulos children interacted with their father, Fotis Dulos. Now let's listen to what she says about Jennifer as a mom.
Could you describe the dynamic between Jennifer and the children?
Yeah, it was very silly, her relationship with the kids. They always wanted to be next to mommy. It was just kind of what it was. And she would sing to them and laugh at them. And she never raised her voice. She was like so soft-spoken and never got angry. And she was just like incredibly nurturing.
So Kevin, it's really an emotional moment when Lauren Almeida describes Jennifer's interaction with her kids. You can see Lauren's face light up even just thinking about it.
Absolutely. You got to sort of see, from Lauren, the different dynamic that she had with both of the parents, as well as the relationships that the kids had with both of their parents. She described the relationship with Fotis more as transactional, but the minute she started getting into what the children were like with Jennifer Dulos, you could see the emotion come out of her face. You heard the way she talked about the children and their interactions with their mom. It was really an emotional moment in the courtroom, and we're expecting more of that emotional testimony today.
And, Kevin, we heard it throughout the time Fotis was suspected in Jennifer's murder. Really, the only thing that he would say to us, to reporters, was that he loved his children. So the nanny's insight on him not being a very present father is interesting. So let's move forward now to the relationship that the nanny had with Jennifer and Fotis. She spoke about Jennifer as a close confidant. Let's take a listen.
And as you worked full-time for the Dulos family, did you begin to develop a friendship with Jennifer?
Yeah.
How would you describe your relationship with her?
I confided in her with a lot of things, like in my personal life. I just always trusted her. She was my boss, but she was someone that, we just connected really well. We just worked well with each other. I knew what she liked, what she didn't. She knew what I was good at. We had a really good relationship.
Now, Almeida also worked for Fotis Dulos' company, the Four Group. She had split her time between her work there and being a nanny with the kids. And here's how she described Fotis as a boss.
How did you view Mr. Dulos when you initially began working for Four Group?
Oh, I saw him as like a role model and a mentor. And I thought at the time he's given me this really great opportunity. So I considered him a friend.
Why did you consider him to be a role model?
When I first started working, he was just incredibly nice. He made me feel comfortable. He was funny. He, was fresh out of college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it sounded like I was getting this really great opportunity, even though it had nothing to do with any of the work I've ever done. And it seemed like he just wanted to push me and, make me better.
So, Kevin, Lauren describes both Jennifer and Fotis in a positive light here. It's interesting to hear about Fotis, the boss. She says he really took her under his wing at the Four Group.
Absolutely. It was interesting. The defense attorney, John Schoenhorn, really didn't want her testimony to come in about Jennifer Dulos because he described it as mostly hearsay. But then when she started to describe Fotis, she also spoke of him in a very positive light. She described him as a person who encouraged her to go back to school, learn more, consider different degrees, and even at one point described opportunities beyond just working at the Four Group, where he could see her fitting well into the Four Group company as a full-time employee. So there was sort of this back and forth dynamic. The defense attorney didn't want to hear any testimony regarding her relationship with Jennifer Dulos, but then she turned around and sort of offered positive testimony regarding Fotis Dulos as well.
So amazing the way defense attorneys can use a witness for their own purposes, as well as object to the same witness for the testifying more in a favorable way toward the prosecution. And on the screen, of course, is a picture of Michelle Troconis standing at her defense table. And she's being charged with conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with evidence, and hindering prosecution. The first charge, of course, is the most serious charge of conspiracy to commit murder, which could carry a 25 years to life sentence in this case. So huge stakes here, of course. The evidence, the testimonial evidence, I think is extremely important with the nanny speaking today. Of course, Lauren Almeida. They're going to present in this little tape, they're going to talk about some of the evidence here. Let me pull it up on the screen.
To the forensics lab so they would have her DNA profile. Methodical is how I would describe the way that the photos are presented in court. And then retired Sergeant Riley would discuss how they were noted, tested, collected, or seized. Now, among the stains field tested and swabbed, this mark that appears to be in the shape of a shoe print. Riley testified that the stain had a presumptive positive result for blood, so he swabbed it and sent the sample to the state crime lab. And they also documented this strand of hair found in the garage floor. It was photographed and collected. It is unclear at this point in the testimony whose hair it was. Now, the garbage cans in the garage were tested too. You can see blood-like stains in the photos. They field tested positive, and samples were collected for the state crime lab. Now, Kevin, the sheer bulk of evidence that's been documented is almost overwhelming, especially for a jury who is seeing and hearing about this for the very first time. So what's the prosecution's strategy here? Because again, we aren't hearing much about Michelle Troconis just yet. And of course, she's the defendant here.
Absolutely. The prosecutors we got a little bit of a taste of exactly what their strategy was yesterday when they were deciding exactly what evidence could be shown to the jury, as well as what testimony the jury could hear. The prosecutors began to hit on this idea that they absolutely need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was Fotis Dulos who murdered Jennifer Dulos, so that later on in testimony, they could tie in Michelle Troconis to this larger conspiracy, again, leading to that charge of conspiracy to commit murder.
Now, we were also shown detailed photographs of the blood-like stains on Jennifer's Range Rover, which was parked inside the garage. Retired Sergeant Riley pointed out a number of areas that were noted, many of which were swabbed and tested for DNA. He also showed an apparent spatter pattern on the bottom of the left front door. Now, the Range Rover was later processed and examined at Troop G in Bridgeport and put on a lift, where photos were taken of that left side with the spatter pattern. Now, this is a photo of a stain on the grille of the Range Rover when it was still in Jennifer's garage. Detectives took a photo of the pattern on that stain. A retired Sergeant Riley says he can't say for sure if this stain was swabbed.
With respect to any testing on it, do you recall if there was any testing on Exhibit 58?
Nothing beyond photography.
So, Kevin, it's interesting that this was presented to the jury. No testing was done on it. It was just a picture that was taken. Do we think the prosecution will elaborate more on some of the evidence that was not tested?
It's likely. I think the prosecutors will definitely continue to show evidence that wasn't necessarily tested. They're just continuing to show the jury exactly how much evidence investigators were working with in the early days of the investigation, and likely moving in the direction of why investigators so quickly elevated this case beyond just a missing persons case.
It's amazing. It's almost like they are charging Fotis Dulos, like this case is about Fotis Dulos and the fact that he probably murdered his wife, and they cannot, of course, he's never going to trial because he committed suicide. However, this same evidence, of course, is being used to prosecute Michelle Troconis. So it's important that all of this evidence was collected, photographed, processed correctly, so that the jury can include it. And the defense, of course, would love this evidence to be excluded. And that's, I think, what, when they talk about the presumptive test for blood, presumptive obviously means it's presumed to be blood till another test is in a laboratory is given that positively identifies it as blood. But I think it's pretty clear from these photographs and from these the reproducing and what we're seeing in this video that the crime scene was inside the garage, that Jennifer Dulos was murdered inside that garage. And there were, of course, attempts to clean up the crime scene, to clean up the blood, to get rid of all the evidence, as we saw later on in downtown Hartford when Fotis Dulos and Michelle Trones were getting rid of garbage bags with the belongings of Jennifer Dulos. So it's as if they are trying Fotis Dulos for this homicide in order to get Michelle Trones, of course, because he committed suicide. Let's play a little bit of this from the trial.
Jennifer's garage. Riley said they had blood-like stains on them, so they were collected and also sent to the state crime lab. A paper towel roll that
They're talking about a paper towel roll that also
Riley was
contained
testifying
blood.
about on Friday when the judge sent the jury out over the issue of presumptive field test. Judge Kevin Randolph started off Tuesday's proceedings with that debate and then his decision. He decided to allow the testimony because John Schoenhorn has the opportunity to cross-examine the witness about the test and its relevance.
And the wide open avenue for cross-examination, in this court's view, does not allow the jury to fall simply into a hole of false impressions. The court will allow the testimony.
So just as the judge said, attorney John Schoenhorn had a chance to question the evidentiary value of those field tests called the Kastle-Meyer test during his cross-examination of the witness. He questioned Riley about a number of substances that could could give presumptive positive results. Here's his exchange with the witness.
I wanted to presume that a stain on my kitchen cabinet was horseradish. I might use this test, right?
If you really wanted to.
Exactly. And so let's say a
Questioning the results.
spilled hamburger, piece of hamburger juice. That would test positive, right?
I don't know. I've never tried it on hamburger, sir.
Well, hamburger is basically animal meat, right?
Yeah, but I've never tried it on hamburgers.
Fair enough. But it would also test positive for, I don't know, a cat, little blood from a cat, right?
Oh, yes, animals. Absolutely.
Mice, right? There's a garage, right?
If you had an injured mouse, yes.
All right, so here's when things got a little heated when the prosecution made this comment to the court while the jury was out of the courtroom.
As near as I can tell, the defense's theory is that Jennifer Dulos, shortly before disappearing, ran over a squirrel in her garage that was eating a cheeseburger. Okay, so the issue.
I'm going to object to such pejorative, sarcastic remarks.
Well, before we proceed,
So, Kevin, that exchange there, again, got a little heated. Sarcastic, of course, is what John Schoenhorn called it. So why is it so important to Schoenhorn's strategy to get the jury to question those field tests?
Absolutely. He's trying to sort of get the
He's trying to show that it's not blood.
Credibility of the testimony and the witness themselves. Essentially, he didn't want any of this testimony to come in because he believed that it would be unfair because the jury would see all this evidence and come to a conclusion before a forensics expert could even testify, and he would have the chance to cross-examine that forensics expert about what exactly was found inside that garage. But of course, the prosecutors say that they were just introducing all this evidence, and what the presumptive field tests, they were not conclusive. There was no exact answer of what was exactly inside the garage.
So amazing that, you know, the defense attorney, of course, is trying to create that doubt, of course, but he didn't want it to get in that this, in fact, was the blood of Jennifer Dulos. And of course, that's his job, to poke holes in this. But The judge is being pretty well, not lenient. He's with the law. He's allowing certain evidence to come in that the defense would prefer not to come in, and that's a good judge. That's a good judge. You can't be either one way, pro prosecution or pro defense. You have to be a judge in a level playing field. This is some of Lauren Almeida's testimony about when Jennifer Dulos first went missing.
Your attention now to Friday, May 24th, 2019. Did you receive any text messages from Jennifer's phone on the morning of May 24th?
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask that we call.
So you got to show them on the screen.
And actually, I'm just going to. Just before we get to there, I want to just button up.
This is the day Jennifer Dulos disappeared. They're showing text messages on the screen.
This is where we, I think, left off. If we can just continue on to the next page. This is page 2 of folder 1, text message from Jennifer. So this is now page 2. And directing your attention to Wednesday, May 22nd at approximately 4:59 p.m. You indicated okay to come back. She responds, yes, he'll be back about 6:15, 6:20. I'll explain. And you responded, okay. Was that in between when you took Noel and then returned to take Constantine to practice?
Yes.
Now, directing your attention to page 3. You had indicated to the jury that you had received text messages from Jennifer's phone in the morning. And I want to just direct you to the top, Friday, May 24th at 7:14 a.m. Can you just indicate to the jury what she wrote to you?
Yeah, she said, I took Instagram off so he could use it for a car ride. Petros's iPad is in my bathroom. Petros is bringing lax stick he has to bring home.
Okay. And so, first of all, just for the record, what is Instagram?
Well, it's a social media app.
Okay. And who had Instagram?
Petros had it when he was not allowed to have it because he downloaded it.
Okay. And so when she's saying I took Instagram off, she's referring to some tablet or computer that
Yes.
Petros had?
Yes.
Okay. And she's indicating he's allowed to have it now?
Yes.
Okay. And what does this mean? Petros is bringing lax sticks he has to bring home.
Yeah, so Petros played lacrosse, so he was bringing the lacrosse stick to school because I think he was playing after school.
So you received these messages in the morning.
Mhm.
What time did you arrive at 69 Wells Lane that day?
I got there, I think it was close to 11.
When you say 11 in the morning?
11 in the morning, yeah.
How did you get there?
I drove my car.
Did you make any stops prior to getting to 69 Wells Lane?
Yes.
Where did you stop?
I stopped at the restaurant chain Subway to get sandwiches for everybody.
And when you got to 69 Wells Lane, how did you enter the home?
Like I always do. So I typed in the code to the middle garage and went through the middle bay.
And then through the mudroom door?
Yes, and through the mudroom door.
Did you notice anything unusual when you went into the garage?
When I went into the garage, yes, the Range Rover was still there and the Suburban was gone when she told me she would be taking the Range Rover.
Did you see any blood-like substances in the garage or on the floor?
No.
After you walked in the garage, where did you go?
So I enter through the mudroom and I usually put my stuff. She had these cubbies and I put my stuff in the cubby and then I go to the kitchen. So I went in the kitchen.
When you got to the kitchen, did you notice anything unusual?
A couple things, yes.
Tell the jury what you noticed.
So first, her purse was on the floor. It was between the mudroom and the kitchen, like the doorway. It was a big, like, structured purse. And I thought it was just a little odd because it was a really nice handbag and it was on the floor. But I didn't look in the bag, so I just kind of figured she took her phone and her wallet with her to New York. And then when I entered the kitchen, she always had a tea, like in a certain cup with her, and a granola bar. She ate it every morning. It was just part of her routine, and it was there. The tea was still full, and the granola bar was still there. So I thought it was a little strange, but I just figured she was in a rush because I knew she had to get to the city. So I just cleaned the cup of tea and I put the granola bar away.
As you were cleaning the cup of tea, did you notice the paper towel roll on the countertop near the sink?
Yeah, so the paper towel roll was empty, so I went in the pantry to go grab another one and noticed that there were only 2 rolls of paper towels left, which was odd to me because the night before I just put 12 rolls in there. But again, thought maybe the kids spilled something and they used a lot of paper towels.
Did you do anything else when you were inside the house?
Yeah, so usually I would go in and I would go in the kids' room and like fix up their beds or put away some clothes. And then after I left to pick the kids up from school.
So this is the testimony of Lauren Almeida in regards to the day that Jennifer Dulos disappeared. Some of the unusual things that she witnessed. Who would know it better than a nanny, the condition of the home and where things are supposed to be, where things are out of place. She even noticed that she had a cup of tea and a granola bar, which was her routine every day. The tea was left on the counter. It wasn't, she didn't drink it. The granola bar was not opened. Her pocketbook was there. And strange also, she said that there was only 2 paper towels in the cabinet, and she said she had put 12 recently, which would indicate someone used 8 rolls of paper towels to clean up something. So the prosecution is building, of course, their case to show. And again, this would be a case that you would expect for the Fotis Dulos, but of course he's not standing trial. His girlfriend is, right? Michelle Troconis. And this evidence is going to be used for conspiracy to commit murder. So when we talk about, there's a picture on the screen of Fotis Dulos. He, of course, never made it to trial because he committed suicide. And now all of this evidence that would have been used against Fotis Dulos is now, of course, being used to prosecute Michelle Troconis for conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with evidence, and hindering prosecution. And on the screen right now, a picture of Lauren Almeida, the nanny that still works for the family. Again, Fotis Dulos, a picture with him and Michelle Troconis. Fascinating trial. Whether they can prove the charges against Michelle Troconis remains to be seen. I think the prosecution has a strong case. However, you never, and we say this all the time on Police Off the Cuff, you never know what a jury is going to do. The thumbnail on the screen, Michelle Troconis case. Nanny Lauren Almeida discusses contentious relationship between Jennifer Farber and Fotis Dulos. Jennifer Farber Dulos, of course. So the trial is ongoing. A lot of technical evidence that we've heard. Good coverage by the Connecticut news stations, bringing us to trial, bringing us to testimony. I think that the nanny, obviously, Lauren Almeida, is an excellent witness. Anyone that lives with the family that basically witnesses their lives day to day is one hell of an outstanding witness. So we'll bring more on this case. I just wanted to do a little snapshot of it today. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you tonight at 9:30 as we do a deeper dive into the Gilgo Beach case, the fourth indictment for Rex Schumann in regards to Maureen Brainerd Barnes. And we're going to have serial killer expert Dr. Joni Johnson on tonight. I'll see you then. Have a great day, everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.